So, Republicans are again threatening a government shutdown so they can get the concessions they want, which obviously is cuts to any social programs that help people that need it and increase military budget and tax cuts for corporations and billionaires. Yeah, so they want a 27% cut on Social Security Administration, nutrition assistance for poor newborns. Fucking right on. Money for federal education, federal cancer and stroke research. So the basic shit, you know. For Republicans, these programs meant to help people who are struggling should be cut because to a Republican, anybody who ends up in a situation where they need federal assistance is a moral failure and deserves to die. So, why do they do this all the time? You know? Now, of course, people have got caught on to the fact that they do this every time a Democrat is in office. So people have gone like, oh, there's a bit of a pattern here. Maybe this is deliberate. Maybe this is something they've been carefully planning out for a long time. Maybe since Reagan was in office. That's right. They have been doing that. This is the Two Santa strategy, the Starve the Beast strategy. There's a couple different names for it. So what they do is this. When a Republican gets in office, they do a couple things. They do tax cuts for corporations and billionaires, which means what happens when that's the case, right? What happens is we're not bringing in a lot of tax revenue. The U.S., for as big as we are, spends the 8th lowest on social programs as a percentage of our GDP. The United States also, for as big as we are and as economically productive as we are, brings in the 5th lowest tax revenue as a percentage of our GDP. And the Republicans knew this, so they starved the beast, right? It started with Reagan. You do tax cuts for corporations and billionaires. You are of the complete understanding that trickle-down economics is a hoax, right? It's a myth, because those corporations and billionaires don't funnel that money back into the economy or invest back in their business, because why would they be incentivized to do that? You legalize stock buybacks, so what they do with their extra money is just do stock buybacks to enrich their shareholders, or they pocket it. Because, of course, capital investment is already tax deductible, right? So if you increase taxes on corporations, they're actually more incentivized to actually invest in their business and get that money circulating into the economy, because then they can write that off on their taxes. If you give them a tax cut, they're just going to take those profits and have them, or enrich their shareholders with stock buybacks. So you bring in not enough tax revenue. What else do you do to starve the beast? You increase the military budget ridiculously. All Republicans are in favor of always increasing the military budget. The Pentagon has not been able to pass an audit in 5 audits. They're missing money. They don't know where their assets are. They could be building shit here, but they don't. They offshore a bunch of jobs. Regardless, we gotta starve the beast. So we're spending like crazy on the military. And we're not bringing in enough tax revenue. Then what happens? Well, you give the corporations a big tax cut. They're making a bunch of money. Our GDP gets a little bit of a, you know? And so then it looks like Republicans are like super good with the economy. But in actuality, it's a very short-lived, unproductive, bad for the middle class jump. It's not a coincidence if you actually look at these so-called, fiscally conservative Republicans, Bush, Reagan, and Trump. All of them kicked a giant hole in the national deficit. And they did it on purpose. So why do they do this? Well, obviously, they're appealing to corporate interests. Large corporations and billionaires donate to their campaigns. They donate to their campaigns to get favorable legislation like these tax cuts. And then what they do, and again, it's a smart political strategy. These people are demons from hell, but it's a smart political strategy. Then a Democrat gets elected. And then the Republicans, even though that Democrat has just inherited the economy and the ridiculous deregulation and tax cuts and huge increase in military spending from the last Republican administration, they get to inherit that economy. Most of voters just think that what's ever happening in the economy at the time that person is president is their doing. And then the Republicans get to, when that Democrat is in office, yell and scream and moan about the national deficit. People fall for it hook, line, and sinker. And then they use that as the reason they're threatening to shut down and potentially tank our economy. Because, of course, if they actually gave a fuck about the economy, they would make sure that middle class and working class people had enough money to spend and stimulate the economy. They don't give a shit about the economy. They only give a shit about the economy to the extent that the economy is working for the bourgeoisie. So then they get to yell and kick and scream about the deficit. People fall for it hook, line, and sinker. And now they get to get their concessions, which is always more tax cuts, cutting back on social programs, and an increase in military spending. Now, I will say, our Democratic politicians are weak centrists who will not do a marginal tax rate increase, have a high marginal tax rate that would just nip this problem in the ass. Because the Democrats are a pro-corporate party too, of course. They're not as hawkish and brazen about it as the Republicans are, but they still have their corporate interests. They get to fearmonger about our deficit. They threaten the government shutdown to get concessions they want, which is the same shit they implemented when they were in office, which caused the increase in the deficit in the first place. A lot of people have seen this pattern and recognized it is a pattern. Just know it's a pattern, it's a deliberate pattern. And this is a calculated strategy that they do. It's not, on accident. Because again, to Republicans, those social programs are just aiding people who are moral failures. And who we really should be helping are billionaires, 60% of whom inherited most of their wealth, but their parents worked hard, so they're not moral failures. They deserve to not live on the street. So yeah, just know this. It's a deliberate, well calculated plan. And they probably will get some of these concessions. They probably will. Because, of course, if we shut down the government for any substantive amount of time, our economy will tank. It'll tank, It won't be good. Now, the Republicans aren't even really upset about that, because that just means the corporations who they love so much, who they give these tax cuts to, can just consolidate more of the market by buying up other companies who wouldn't be able to fund themselves during an economic downturn. Then those corporations just get to be more powerful more monopolistic and control more of the market and donate even more to their campaigns, and it's just handshake deal after handshake deal, you know. So yeah, but just know why this is. Just know and know that they know that this is on purpose and this is a deliberate strategy. And you guys can look all of this up. If you think I'm telling you a conspiracy theory, please self-verify.